The Inkpulp Podcast.
Welcome to the Inkpulp Podcast. Boys are back from New York Comic Con, all sick, and we've got a really special guest today who's also recovering, but not from the con, Joe Madureira. Thank you for coming on,
welcome,
Joe.
Man.
Joe, did you like Eric's breakdown of what's happening with the software? It was like, you were moving so fast, Eric. It was like the alien brain. In
I got it.
All right,
here's the thing, right? Like, you guys are like 5-year-olds. You know what I mean? You literally need picture cards to walk you through how.
Eric, we work in comic books.
I spoke to Joe like a regular human being, and you guys were like,
no, he did not.
Slow down for us.
I just like we're all in these bright rooms, and then Eric's got like the Sith Lord like back.
Exactly.
This is normal lighting. What are you guys doing?
Oh, by the way, speaking of that, like I'm looking at us from far away. And like I have a yellow dominant, and Joe has a green dominant. Eric has a blue one, and Shawn. Eric has a red one, and Blue has a. We look like the Power Rangers are talking, like and trying to communicate.
I'm the Green Ranger.
Cool.
Before we went live, Joe, I said you can leave as soon as you start feeling comfortable.
I got one more in me. I'm still good.
All right, I'm just saying.
Two strikes.
Let me try to make up for it, dude. I'm going to shower you with as much compliments as I can at the beginning, at the top of the show.
Okay. And the
there's a couple people
will come later.
Yeah, that's much later.
It hurts, Eric, to compliment
when we knew that you were coming on, we told a couple of our friends offline, in particular one named John Moore, who's been on the show before, said, please tell Joe that during the early part of my artistic journey, he saw your work on the cover of Wizard, and it was proof positive to him that he could try making a go of it in comics, because at that point it wasn't, the style that he was utilizing wasn't very relevant, right? There was a look to everything in comics. And I think when you were on Wizard, at least according to him, he said, yeah, I think that was sort of like the starting pistol for him to say, well, I think that's a good sign that the stuff that I'm doing is better accepted now. So that's one. Dude, thank you for that.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank you.
And two, when you and I first started talking and you started showing interest, and I told Shawn about it, Shawn's, I think, vibrating. He's going to be vibrating in about 3 minutes, but the deeper we get into this conversation, he's going to be translucent because he's just going to be shifting left and right so fast. So Shawn's excited to have you here. Not to say that I'm not.
Very excited.
But Shawn's amped. So thank you, man. You are a huge influence to a whole generation of people. And I think there was, what was it? I think you brought a look to comics that, not necessarily that it wasn't accepted, but it wasn't mainstream. And you parted all the ice in a frozen space to be like, I think this is going to be relevant now, you know. And I think it is the first time I had ever heard of Akiman and Bengus before, because you would talk about it. I think in the handful of interviews that you did. So
that's right. Yeah, again, it's weird because I wish it was intentional. You know, I'll sometimes get credited with like helping usher in manga into mainstream comics and whatnot. But honestly, it's just what I was into. And I was playing a lot of Japanese RPGs.
Sure. Nothing
was in English back then. I had to go to like Chinatown with like the bootleg VHS tapes, or like, just Books Nippon. I lived in New York at the time, so we had a lot of Japanese bookstores, but everything was shrink wrapped. I didn't know what I was getting. And, I was in high school, so it's not like I was loaded, but I would just buy all this stuff and just had the most incredible art. And, not that I had been influenced by American comics for years by then, but there was just something so different and exciting about it. And it got a lot of hate, bro. I'm not going to lie. When I was on
Did
X-Men.
it
really? Yeah. The first, now it's like, oh, Uncanny X-Men. I hate my Uncanny X-Men run. One of the reasons I'm doing the covers for the Age of Apocalypse stuff right now is to kind of make up for my past sins, because I look at that stuff and it's so bad. But I get it. People have nostalgia. But back then, like, we still got paper mail, like snail mail, right?
Yeah.
It was before all the internet trolls. And so Marvel would package up all the fan mail and like send it to our house like once a month. So it would be like piles, like actual piles. And like when I took over X-Men, it was right after Jim Lee, which I knew was scary as hell.
Yeah.
And like there was a lot of hate. Like there was so much mail that was like, where Cyclops doesn't have a nose, how does he breathe? You know, why are Rogue's eyes so big? Like this is stupid.
Sure.
And I was a kid, man. Like so at some point I stopped reading the mail. Like I would take the whole pile and just throw it in the trash. Sorry guys, but I didn't know how to handle that stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, you know, the editors were always super supportive and like, you're doing great. Like it's just a new thing. Like, cause I got in there and I was like chopping up everyone's hairstyles and everything and making them look all crazy. I don't know. It's one of those things where the less you know going into it, the better, because now I feel like, you know, I'm like 50 years old. I follow so many rules. I don't even know what's right and wrong half the time anymore. I'm like, but when you're a kid, like I had no rules. I was just like, I love Arthur Adams, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri. Here we go.
Right.
You know, a little bit of manga. And, you know, luckily I think I was just so scared about messing up and excited to be there. I just kept doing my thing. But you know, in this day and age, I don't know. I probably would have gotten so stressed out, you know, if there was like all this social media hate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It was not accepted, you know, long story short, by everyone.
Let me follow up on something. You've referred to it a handful of times now as like you were a kid. Can you, for the audience that don't know, by the 3 people that we pay to come and watch this show, right? Like how young were you when you got your hands on X-Men?
So X-Men, I think I was 19 or 20. I might have been 20.
Dude.
Because I started actually working at Marvel when I was 16 years old as an intern.
Oh my God.
And then they hired me on. My last 2 years of high school, I was working at Marvel part-time, and I would like not do my homework. I would like be up all night working on, you know, covers and stuff. I did
Sorry
2
to
issues
interrupt,
of
can you imagine at school, like, hey, Joe, did you do your homework? Sorry, I was working at Marvel. You know,
I mean,
couldn't, you know.
to the point where, you know, I remember Bob Harris, he was the X-Men editor at the time, and he was like, I don't want to tell you this because I don't want you to drop out of high school or do anything stupid like that. But when you get out, we're thinking about putting you on one of the X books. And I was like, yeah, okay. Because, dude, I had done like 2 issues of Excalibur and some Marvel Comics Presents. It was bad. Like, I was excited, but I could tell I wasn't like pro level. And, you know, sure enough, like when I graduated, they were like, hey, how do you like Deadpool? And dude, at that time, like Rob Liefeld, New Mutants, I was like, oh my God, Deadpool is my favorite character. And they're like, well, you know, we're going to give him a 4-issue miniseries or whatever. So that's how it started. And then right after that, you know, Jim Lee stepped down from X-Men. Image was starting. All this crazy shit was happening. And they're like, how would you like to do Uncanny X-Men? It's crazy. You don't understand.
Was that out of nowhere,
since
Joe? Was that out of nowhere where you were just kind of like tying up whatever loose ends you had from the mini and you said like, just out of nowhere, they just said, hey, how would you like to take on X-Men? Or was there any sort of like lead up to it where it was like, they were hinting potentially that you're the next guy? Because to give people context, X-Men, I don't know how it is now because it's been a while for me, but X-Men was the title that everyone graduated to, right?
Yeah.
Like that was like, you know, if you're performing in the minor leagues, you know, if you're performing in high school, if you're performing in college, X-Men is the NBA, right?
Yeah.
And to see you come out of nowhere, especially out of, you know, it's Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, a handful of fill-in issues there who were like emulating Jim. And then you come in and it's so interesting that you had that level of self-awareness to go like, I don't think I was pro level back then, but dude, it just felt like you didn't care in the best way possible. You were like, I'm just going to draw what feels good and I'm going to leave my mark, you know? Yeah. But was there a lead up to that? Was there any signal that's like, hey, Joe, you're the next guy?
Man, I honestly don't. If there was, I don't remember it at all. I feel like I was wrapping up Deadpool and it was like, here's what's next, Uncanny X-Men. And I was just like, nah, like,
really?
Yeah, it was a wild time. And funny enough, I just watched Mike Mignola's Drawing Monsters the other day, and not to compare myself to the mega legend, but there was a part where he said that he was hanging around the Marvel offices, and he felt like he only got work because they saw his sad face every day and were like, just give this guy something. And because at that time, it was like they needed warm bodies. It was like, who can draw? Just give him something. Because, they had so much stuff going on. And I honestly feel like it may be some of that where, I was in their face every single day. They liked me. I was responsible back then. No. And they... Yeah, they could see the stuff improving. The first time, I touched art at all at Marvel, John Romita Sr. Had the art raiders in the bullpen there, and they, you would do art corrections and just help generally, hey, fucking do the panel borders, just literally to save minutes or hours.
That's right.
I would ink panel borders, and I was doing it on this issue of Ghost Rider. And Mark Teixeira was there every fucking day at that time when drawing Ghost Rider. I would leave at night and come in, and he'd be asleep on the desk and just wake up and just keep drawing. It was like a machine.
Wow. All right, cool.
So I was inking these panel borders, and I remember when that issue came out, I went to the comic store with my friends, and I'm like, these panel borders, baby. I inked these. And then it was oh no, they drew this glove on the wrong hand, or, they drew the wrong spider on Spidey's chest. And so you would literally either with whiteout or a white piece of tape just on the art, ink over it. And, I was shitting my pants, but they were like, hey, that kid's pretty good. Let him help out. Cause it really was all hands on deck. Yeah. And that's how I started. I was just I don't want to ink on this guy's work. What the hell?
Yeah.
But eventually I feel hey, they're not panicking, so I guess I could do this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Joe, how long did you do the corrections, all the stuff before getting your first, which I think was Marvel Comics Presents, your first show story? Funny enough, I mean, maybe a couple months, but I was doing some of the Marvel Presents while I was still doing that stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I was they were kicking me some paid work, but I was still an intern,
Yes. Okay. So you're still an intern. Well,
I was still an intern.
Jesus. Okay.
And the cool thing is, I floated between a lot of the offices. So, they would be part of my job was making Xerox copies when pages came in and stats at the stat machine. Back then, you would just the lettering was still lettered on the page, or balloons were pasted on there. So I was just overseeing a lot of that stuff. And I would get literally can you go Xerox this whole stack of Alan Davis pages from Excalibur? Wow. And I'm
wow.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
And, they're I'm can I just run some off for myself? And they're yeah, I don't care. So I would have, awesome. Arthur Adams, Alan Davis, pages in my hands, just drooling. And some dudes Arthur Adams would have all these layouts on the back of the page and Blue Line. Brett Blevins was still doing New Mutant stuff back then.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Stuff.
And he drew on the back of every damn page. So I was just absorbing it all. I honestly think it helped me leapfrog by 10 years just by handling the stuff and seeing how it was done. And guys like Mark Teixeira were so helpful. He would always, no matter how tired that poor guy was, he'd always be you're doing good, don't worry so much about this and do more of this. I remember one time he really freed me up where I just saw him doing a background and he had no fucking perspective grid or anything. And he's
oh yeah.
He was man, he's as soon as you start using that shit, whenever something doesn't line up, you notice it. But if you never use it, you never notice it. And he's just and it was something like that, paraphrasing. And I was holy shit, he's so right. Because then it looks it's just style. It's I mean, obviously you got to know the fundamentals and it has to be somewhat correct, but not so precise where every little thing is on grid. So he would just, I don't know. I feel like if I didn't have those guys telling me to keep going, I probably would have fizzled out. But luckily there was like a lot of support and like, one thing I think that a lot of artists might struggle with, and it's easier now because of the internet, but back then, like I became an artist because I liked being by myself, right? I liked being in my room.
Right.
My mom would joke that like, I can't even send you to a room. Like when you're in trouble, that's just where you
Right.
go.
Yeah.
I didn't play sports. And so I liked just imagining things and drawing things and being by myself. But I do think a lot of, once you're trying to be a commercial artist, there is a lot of networking involved, right? A lot of it is like relationships you made, friendships you made. And I think bouncing around as an intern, even I knew a lot of the editors in the different offices and I knew when they were looking for an artist and, like what artist was working on what. And I made friends with some of the artists. So like, I think had I not done that, if I was still in my room sending, submissions in or trying to, show up at a show with a portfolio,
Yeah.
I don't know. It might have changed things. So I do think about that a lot. It's like just the networking aspect. Even now working in games, I have to deal with so many people like every day, but it's not natural for me. Like naturally, I just want to like be a hermit, like drawing. So I think that there's that part of being an artist that, you kind of gotta get better at just talking to people and networking with people and learning from other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can just surround yourself with dark red lights and people will get the message to just leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know exactly who you're alluding to, but
I was
think
talking to you,
like
Eric. It's an intervention.
I didn't realize that Shawn didn't even go live. You know what I mean? I think you guys are just bringing me into a room and saying like talk to more people. I can totally relate to that.
Just so you know, at the show, Eric was in New York with us, and he had red lights even at the show, just to make sure that people understood.
It just follows them around.
Well, jokes aside, they were saying it's off-putting to see it in natural light, and I was like, F you guys, but also, I guess it's working.
It's coming from within. It comes from inside.
I can kind of relate to that last part that you were talking about because, it took Shawn offline to say, hey, listen, as I'm stepping back into comics again after being gone working in video games for a while, I come to realize that the network that I had established before I left had pretty much dissipated. It's 10, 15 years of being out of the loop in mainstream. And so through Shawn's, suggestion, insistence, I went to New York and started reestablishing those, basically stretching those soft skills of being able to talk to people again. And it is incredibly critical that, the work can speak for itself. Obviously, good is good. But there's something to be said about, that interpersonal skill that allows them to understand, oh, you're not some kind of weirdo. You're actually, you conduct yourself professionally. You can string sentences together that makes us believe that you can actually do this job. So there's something to be said about that. And if that's a pretty great tip to somebody who's starting out to not just, you can lean pretty heavy on the work because the work, again, is ultimately what's going to be public facing. But when you need to talk to people, when you need to work with people, it's important that you make some of that face time,
Yeah. And again, it really depends on what you're working on. Obviously, if you are just doing your own book and you can kind of still do it the old school way. But, for me, like working in games, working on large teams, it's you really want to have people around you that you like and that you trust and, vice versa. So it's just something that I think about more now and how how it might have changed things for me back in the day. But
sure.
I do think, now everyone has access to, the internet and even that, like just seeing, I'll have my morning coffee, open up ArtStation and see these crazy, crazy fucking pieces of art that I could not even do in 6 months.
Yeah.
That it's like, would this be demoralizing to me back then? Because I had to seek out stuff. I didn't see art unless I went to the bookstore and like looked for it. So like, it was such a different time. Like I feel like there's so many more resources available. Like, hey, I'm watching a YouTube tutorial about lighting. This is awesome. I didn't have that back then, but
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
but also there's so much more in your face and so much competition and so much, amazing artists overseas that are just like, 16 years old doing incredible pro level stuff. So, yeah, it's a wild time. I don't know why I'm rambling so much. Sorry.
I was gonna.
I'm
I was gonna
nostalgic.
say, I was gonna say, Joe, I don't want to tell you this, but you were 19 years old and you were drawing X-Men and
exactly.
pretty much
That's
pissing
true.
everybody
That's
off in your way. So it's not, you're not exceptional in the, hey, I
But it
piss off a
wasn't
lot
on
of
the
people in
internet,
my good
okay?
way.
It wasn't as hard to find. It was hard to
For sure.
All right.
That's true.
So,
Oh,
Joe,
by the way, since Joe mentioned his first time in Marvel, I found out that I have some of his first work, I guess. This probably was, it was a story featuring Mirage from, I don't
Oh
know,
my
Marvel
God.
Comics Present
Yeah,
one.
I forget about that one.
121. Yeah. It's already beautiful stuff, man. Here, probably you were like 17 or 18, man.
I remember.
And here, I can see more of the Art Adams influences that you were talking about, because then you turn out to be, Joe Madureira, your own thing. But here, and when I was reading, and even when you were talking about Art Adams, I'm like, Art Adams, where is that influence? And now here on this one, I can see, part of what you were gonna become, but also I can see where you come from.
Yeah. There's a Mojo story too, where, I mean, partially just because no one else had ever drawn Mojo except Arthur Adams, but when I was using that as reference, I was like just trying to turn into Arthur Adams. It's like embarrassing. I actually finally got to meet him a few years ago and just, gushed at him about what a huge influence he was on me. And like, no, I would literally be like, I want to draw hands like that, fists,
Right.
running poses, everything. It was Arthur Adams. Like, I didn't even, my anatomy was like pretty much Arthur Adams and John Byrne anatomy. And like, I didn't really know what was going on under there, under the skin, but that's how I drew it. And then later I came to learn like, oh, okay, that's what he was actually drawing. I just was way off. And I think it's hard for me to look at that early stuff, man. I was just so influenced by so many things. But I do. That Mirage story, it's weird because I completely forgot about it, but there's two shots I remember vividly struggling with. There's one where she's like fighting with a stick and it's like from behind, and so it's this like upward angle. And I was so determined to nail this angle. I don't even know if it came out good or not, but it's weird because I can flash back to a specific struggle. That was probably like
a specific moment.
Man, how long ago was that?
Was
like
it
35 years or something? I don't
this one? Can you see?
Yeah. I think that was it.
Oh, it came out
the
great.
staff fighting scene.
Just so you know. Yeah.
We're gonna have our editor put it on
Put that
screen.
thing away.
No, we're gonna have our editor.
Sorry.
Exactly.
We're gonna have our
Matteo.
editor put it extra
I'm gonna
large on
make
the
you
screen.
relive
as
the
you're talking.
drama.
Yeah.
Joe, one of the things we talk about a lot on this show is like becoming an independent creator and creating new ideas. So I wanted to move on from Marvel and talk about Cliffhanger and where that came from and what that was like starting that out.
Yeah, Cliffhanger. So yeah, we were all basically starting our own indie books. I had already told Marvel like I wanted to do a fantasy comic. It was kind of superheroed out, and at that time it was like Conan. Like Conan, I'm like, no, I like Final Fantasy 6 and 7. You know what that is? And they're like, no, what's that?
Right.
And so I was just like, I was looking at like Berserk, Bastard, Record of Lotus War, like all this crazy stuff. And it's like, why isn't there comics like this? That's just what I want to draw. And so at that time, Image had been trying to recruit me pretty heavily by then. And I talked to Jim Lee at Wildstorm, and he's like, dude, a bunch of you guys have books coming out at the same time. Like Jay Scott's doing Danger Girl. Mm-hmm. Umberto's got Crimson. Mike Turner at that time, RIP, was about to do Fathom. And Jim was like, we should wrangle this together into an imprint. It's just, why release them all like just scattershot, like just do it all in one go. So that's kind of what started it.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, later on, Chris Baccialo came on with Steampunk.
Right.
And we all had just books launching at the same time. And I remember I pitched it to Jim because I didn't even have drawings or anything. And it was like, he's like, you really want to do a fantasy book? You're going to follow up X-Men with like this thing? And I was like, yeah, there's like a swordsman and a hot girl and a little kid and an old man and a robot. And he was just like, all right, whatever. I trust you.
Yeah. Let me interrupt, Joe. Like, I think as you're talking about it and you're saying like, you know, Chris and Umberto and Jeff, right? We're just kind of glossing over it because it's all sort of like in the past. But I want to give you context, at least our audience who did not live in that era. When Cliffhanger got announced, it was this wave of excitement in the, not just from the fan community, but in the artistic community of like, holy crap, that it's basically the 92 Dream Team, you know, for the USA Basketball Dream Team, where they said these guys are all going to get together and it's all going to come out under one imprint. This was pre-Chris, because I think they led with the three of you, Umberto, you, and Jeff.
Yeah.
And that was unthinkable, the amount of hype that came behind that, right? I think, did Jeff come out first with Danger Girl, or was it Umberto? I can't recall who came out first.
I don't remember.
I honestly don't remember.
I think it was Jeff.
You know what I do remember?
Jeff.
They put out this little ash can called Cliffhanger Preview, which was pencils of all of Battle Chasers, Danger Girl, and Crimson. And that was like my education, like just going through this pencil
lost
pages
their collective minds, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe these guys are going to come up with their own stuff. And so again, that's underselling it and even as I'm talking it up, as I'm hyping it up, in the moment, it was unbelievable that you guys were going to come out with your own imprint. And so the expectations were already high, coming off the tails of, I think Jeff was doing what? Oh, gosh. Gen 13 at the time, right?
Gen 13, yep.
And Umberto was coming off of something. I can't recall what it was.
He was coming off of Impulse, right?
Oh, there you go. So the hype behind you guys, as you were coming off of X-Men, was like, there was a giant magnifying glass. And so I can't imagine what the pressure might have been like for you. Was there any pressure at all where you're just like, I'm just going to draw? You know, was it the same thing? You just kind of turned off the outside world and said, I'm just going to draw this book?
Yeah, I think, yes. I didn't feel as much pressure on Battle Chasers for some reason. Like at that point, I just wanted to draw what I wanted. And I didn't have a lot of, I felt like it was going to be hundreds of issues long, so I didn't really worry too much about the pacing of the story or whatever. It was like, you know, we'll just do a little world building and we'll eventually tie it all together. We'll just, you know, I feel like drawing robots and fucking swords right now, so this is what it's going to be. Yeah. I don't know why this is a kind of a weird thing about me. I don't feel like I've ever had a fear of like failure per se. Like I didn't ever feel like, oh no, what's going to happen if I flame out? Weirdly, I think I worry about it more now, right? Yeah. Now that I'm like so established and, you know, there's like a studio full of people. But like back then I don't know. I just had to try it. I just never really, I see a lot of people get in their own way. Like even now where it's like, what if this and what if that? And I don't know if I can compete with it. And it's like, well, then you're already doomed. Like you kind of, I never had that weird switch that was like, you know, I reacted to people not liking what I was doing or loving what I was doing, but I didn't really like, I just figured if this shit sucks and nobody wants fantasy, I'll do superheroes at some point. I'll go back and beg Marvel for a Spidey title or something like that.
Sure.
But I just had to try it. I was so burned out and I just was like, everything I was consuming was fantasy at that time. And I felt like, man, if I drew this shit, I feel like I would kill it. Like, I feel like I'd be so energized because a lot of times you just want to draw what inspires you, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't want to draw cars and buses and city buildings and shit anymore. I was just like, God, give me like a forest and like an old cabin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some rusty old weapons. I don't want any more of the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, pretty much to this day, if you put a gun to my head and I went back to comics, it's going to be fantasy, probably Battle Chasers. But even if it wasn't, it would probably not be a modern day superhero comic.
Did
So,
you grow up loving fantasy? Like reading novels and stuff?
I did. I think I had one of those uncles that like had cable and he like loved when I would watch some fucking deviant shit on his cable channels. And I remember watching Clash of the Titans because you know I had a few cousins. Yeah, I had some cousins that would draw, and they would draw like Spider-Man and Bugs Bunny and shit. And I would trace like they would be like, don't color in the coloring books, then you can't trace it. You should just trace that Winnie the Pooh shit. And I'd be like, And I would kind of start to retain it. And so I was drawing cute stuff. And then one day I just saw Clash of the Titans, the 70s stop motion crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? I was probably like 5 years old. I don't know. But I was just like, Medusa freaked me out. Like her head sack dropping bloods that turn into like scorpions that kill dudes in their sleep. And like, I just wanted to find stuff like that. So me and my friends would buy like Fangoria magazine and like crazy shit. And like I had my older friends would play D&D and I wasn't like I was like too young to play, but I would be reading all the monster manuals and stuff and drawing my little versions of all the monsters. And so like monsters is what really like I would like draw like, and you know, I had relatives that were like kind of making their own little comics for fun. And my cousin Paul, he ended up not staying in an art career, but he put me on the path for sure. He was the one that showed me Bernie Wrightson, Arthur Adams. He would always pull these little comics. And there was the one weekend that I feel like that's the turning point that changed my life. He had pulled an issue of Longshot, George Perez, Teen Titans. It was the one with Trigon in it. With there was like this bridge of corpses that was just like, oh my God, why does he draw every single leaf on every tree? He's crazy. And then Bernie Wrightson, Frankenstein. And I was just like that feeling I had, I knew like this is what I want to do. I was probably like, I don't know, 10 years old, not even, but I want to just stop drawing in my little sketchbooks like that. I want to do like this. How the fuck do you do this stuff? Like, what do I do? And so he would show me his little stories where he drew little panels and this guy dives into the water to get a sword and kill this monster and save the girl. And I just started doing that stuff. I have tons of old little things in storage of like, someday I'll unearth those things. But, I made my own little stories and stuff.
Of course. Yeah. Of
and
course.
But to this day, like right now on the project we're working on, I'm just drawing monsters again, finally.
So
and I'm
cool.
like, it's like,
That's so cool.
if I could pick the one thing, it's not going to be vehicles and armor and shit like that. I want to do the creatures. So,
I mean, it seemed like it was right up your alley. I remember there was a remarkable uptrend in craft from the last thing that I saw from you from X-Men and seeing Battle Chasers for the first time. Yeah, things got like ridiculously solid and more you. I think there was a level of I'm interpreting it as confidence, right? But you understood your shapes more, you understood your proportions more. And I think there was that transition. Was it Tom McWeeny that was inking you? Who just understood how to make things that much more solid. There was a line quality that you were applying to everything because I saw the pencils and Tom was able to interpret that. And then the coloring was being done by whom? I can't recall.
Liquid at the time.
There you go.
Christian Lichtner
Christian.
and Aaron Lucen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's somehow, again, you want to talk about like the freaking 92, USA basketball dream team. Like I felt like it congealed in the perfect way to be the presentation version in which that was remarkable, if that makes any sense. So it was just a great way to just like showcase and highlight what I thought, what you were going for from the very beginning.
No, I appreciate it. I was definitely more excited, and like having a team like that on the book, flip side, I lost my mind around that time because I had so much freedom to do what I wanted, and I like didn't care about deadlines or anything anymore. I had come from this like page a day. I would be like fucking, my wife at the time I was married would be racing to FedEx because they closed at 7:00 and it was like 6:54.
Right.
And I'm like bumping around in the seat, like still trying to finish it. I kid you not. And whenever I would get there, Al Milgrom would be there because he's the other late fucking dude. And he'd be banging on the glass. And he'd be like, it is like 7:59, bitch. Open the door. It is not 8:00 yet. And we would be like, the amount of times we ran into each other there at closing was hilarious. But I just was like, I just wanted to be good. And like, I was a kid. I was dealing with personal shit, whatever. I don't like to talk about why was Battle Chasers late all the time. There was
It's all right.
a lot of stuff going on, but part of it was just that I didn't feel beholden to deadlines or editors or whatever. I was still, but in my mind, I'm like, this is my book. And if it's late, I'm going to get penalized for it. Nobody else. Like, money's not coming into my pocket because it's late. Right. So if I fucking want to spend an entire week on this one splash page of this thing with 8,000 heads on it, like, I'm going to do it. And unfortunately that, it's not very pro. I'm not proud of it, but I do feel like there are a few issues in there, especially toward the end. I think issue 7 or something. There was one that Tim Townsend stepped into ink and like, holy cow. I spent days and days on like a single panel on some of that stuff. I just wanted it to be perfect. I don't know what happened. And it's still not, right? Like one thing I've come to learn, Jake Parker's, finish not perfect. It's like, even when you think it's perfect, a month later, you're going to be like, oh, it's really not that great. Yeah. So what is the point of trying to kill yourself on every little thing? It's just go on to the next thing. I think lesson learned. But back then, no, it's going to be.
Yeah, I think it's pretty typical though, right? There's the beginning part, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys have experienced this, Maddie, Shawn, where it's like you go in there and you're too stupid to understand that it's good enough, but you're just doing it. You know what I mean? You're just like at the beginning of your career, you're just drawing, you have your influences. In your case, Joe, you're saying it's Arthur, you saw Brittany Wrights and stuff and so on. And then somehow you get that little monochrome of quote unquote, like attention and success. And so, but you're just maintaining, right? And then somewhere along the way, your brain goes stupid and now you're striving for perfection. You're striving for like the highest polished version of your own body of work. And then it goes back to what you're talking about right now. You come to the maturity and realization of like, it's never going to be, what am I doing? Let me just go draw again, as opposed to trying to put a polish on it that really the general public outside of me can't even pick up on. You know what I mean? I'm seeing the quality, but people are like looking at it going, oh, it's awesome. Like for instance, we were talking just now about me. I was hyper focused on those Battle Chasers pages, man. And I remember I was already at Wildstorm at the time, and those pages were coming across in the studio. And I was like, what the F is this? Are these people on? Like, you know what I mean? Because at that point I was trying to not draw like Jim and certainly not draw the stuff that you were doing, but I could understand quality and polish. And I thought like, how good is this? And now here you're saying like, yeah, I was still trying, what I mean? Like it was still, I was still trying, I was still opting for perfection and not quite getting there. So let that be lesson learned to artists. Just like, just freaking draw. Opting for perfection doesn't, Yeah,
Eric, but I think as you mentioned, it comes physiologically during a career. There's a point. At first, you're just pushing hard to be seen and to prove to everyone that you're a professional. Yeah. And then there's a moment in which you're like, okay, I've given enough to the business and I need to, myself, I deserve to breathe for a second. And in the same way, Joe, you were mentioning now, what I like doing is fantasy. So I'm gonna let my personal pleasure breathe and do what I want to do in the timing that I want to do. So it's a kind of also a reaction to the first stage of the career. So I guess this, to me, I find it pretty natural,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think,
it's,
yeah.
plus, if you consider the success that you are having, you could afford to do that, also because
Yeah.
back then we're talking about, mid 90s to 2000, like comic books were selling like crazy, where I think you're kind of expecting the success that the book was gonna have, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Sorry. Back then, yeah, comics, even like mid-selling comics were still selling so many copies, like
Yeah.
so I thought even if it's just okay, like I'll be fine. But if it hits the top 10, then fuck.
Which it did,
it's
by the way.
crazy. Which it did.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
it did.
Top 5 more like, not top
Yeah.
10, top 5.
Yeah. We had there was one issue that was number 1, and I had that shit, that
Dude.
page of Wizard
Yeah, boy.
framed. It was like,
Oh, that's awesome.
suck it, Marvel and DC. But
Can I ask you how many copies did it sell? Just to give to the audience a frame of reference of
Okay.
what a number one selling book would sell back then.
so
In that era.
Yeah. Back then, it wasn't even. It was when numbers were already coming down. It probably sold like 500,000 or 600,000.
Jesus.
But that was low. But that was like Spawn and like Wildcats and shit were selling like 2 or 3 million copies each. You know what I mean? So like,
Right.
Yeah.
it like. And then it was like 1 million copies each, and then it was like 800,000. So like it was already on the decline.
Yeah, at 500,000. It was already declining.
Yeah. But it had multiple covers and shit. It probably sold more than that. Honestly, I wish I remembered, but it was a lot, right? And now, like the recent books come out, and it's like, it's like, oh, it did really great, and I'm like, okay, but I'm spoiled, right? I'm from like another time. And though strangely, for me now, like when I put out new Battle Chaser stuff, which I still want to do another story arc within the next few months, like it is more for just telling the story. I'm like, I've kind of come back to like, like I want to tell the story. I want people to know what happened to these characters. I'm like, I wish I could fucking draw the comic myself, but I'm trying to get to the point where I can at least do a few like pages here and there, or like a little short, definitely covers. But
That'd be awesome.
I do. The reason it doesn't come out that often is because I am clingy to it. Like it was a lot for me to have Ludo come on and do. I don't know if you guys saw the last 3 issues, but like,
Yeah.
I put it off for years because I never imagined somebody else is going to draw this book except for me. But we just had to. But even now, it's like, even though I'm excited for him to do more and he wants to do more, I'm like, but maybe I can do it somehow. I don't know. It's hard for me to let go. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that it just is not really coming out, is because in my mind there's some way that I could like still do it myself. And because I'm very attached to it, and the more I look at other artists' work and legacy, I'm like, man, it's pretty lame that Battle Chasers never got further than it did, and we luckily it did have a game, and we are working on another game, so. It's still bopping around, but I really want to dig into the books someday. I just don't, man, the amount of time, one trend you've probably noticed in comics now is like a lot of these guys just do covers, because it's like,
Right.
you can do covers and go to shows and just sell original art and prints and whatever. And like the painstaking work of doing, pages and pages of like 5 to 10 panels, like, it just doesn't really like financially like make sense for a lot of artists, not for everyone, but for some artists, like, it's just, the time
Not
to money
sustainable.
reward is just not there.
It's not.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a
especially if you've
bummer
got a
because
family.
I love fucking drawing pages. Like I love it. Like I love laying out the panels and like choosing the shots and like, I'm like, maybe I should have been a storyboard artist. I don't know. Just because that's the most fun part. Tightening up the drawing is pain.
Right.
But like just telling the story and like picking the shots and everything is so fun.
Yeah.
So, I do miss it a lot. But
Can we
yeah,
talk
I don't
about,
know, man.
Can we talk about if there was a critical decision, you transitioned into video games, right? You said enough of this comics BS.
Well, actually, I was going to ask
words?
this.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, did you want to get away from comics or did you want to get into video games or a combo of both?
Yeah. That's leading.
Interesting.
That's a leading question.
That's a good question.
Yeah. No, I definitely wanted to get into games. I think that I had done enough comics at that point that I was, I had left X-Men. I had a successful book with Battle Chasers, but it definitely, struggled with the schedule and like a lot of stuff that was going on. I was like getting a bad rap for, never putting a book out. And I'm sure Jim and the guys at Wildstorm like were probably ready to kill me at that point. But I just felt like I had this like window of opportunity because I had met someone working in games that was like, like about to do a startup with some people. And I was like, damn, like I was just so into games at that point. It was my escape, right, from reality. And I was like, I never thought that I could actually get into the game industry in any way. I never really thought about how that would be as like a job or whatever. So, I tried it and it failed. I did it for about 10 months, but some of the people that I had met in that effort kind of got jobs elsewhere, and they were like, hey, we're looking for an art director for this thing. And they were like really indie projects, but I was just like, if I squint, it's kind of like sci-fi Diablo. Okay, I could do this. I just kind of like talked myself into staying in it for, I'm like, I'll give this another year and then I'll go back to comics with my tail between my legs. And, I managed to kind of keep a foothold in it and eventually, start my own studio with a bunch of badasses. And, we started Vigil and did the Darksiders games back then. And then after, our publisher at the time, we got bought out actually. And THQ, the first THQ, when that went bankrupt, we started Airship. And it's been like 11 years now. And
congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Congrats.
It's fun. It's a different kind of fun. I wish I got to draw more. But as the projects get bigger and the team gets bigger, I do less and more like director role stuff. But I am like kind of carving out time to just draw more. And like now I'm like fixated on painting my own stuff. And I'm like, I used to hate that part where I would draw the thing and hand it off to somebody else to color.
Sure.
Right.
And I'm always like, who's going to color this? Who's going to color this? And I'm like, God damn it. Why don't I just learn how to do this shit?
Sure.
So I'm over here like watching YouTube tutorials and like, principles of lighting and fucking color temperature. It's fun. Like I'm not like, I want to get good at it. Like, I feel like in the next, couple years, like I want you to see my work and it's like painted by me and it's like all me and it's not me and someone else. So that's something that, and it's really weird working digitally. I will say I miss like the drawing on paper with a pencil is so still to this day, so natural to me. And like, it flows. I don't know why I can't commit to a damn line when it's digital. I'm like, let me do a layer. Let me hold on, copy paste. Let me like warp tool this. Let me, and then after 3 hours, I'm like, I kind of liked it better before. Whereas on paper, you just put the line down and it's like, you just make the adjustments on the drawing and you're done.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know why I can't. And I've try to force myself to think that way as an exercise digitally, like do it how you would on paper. No layers, no fucking this and that. But I can't help it. It's just like I'll zoom in, zoom way out.
Yeah.
I'll noodle on something zoomed in for like 30 minutes and then zoom out, and you can't even tell the difference if you flip on the layer. So I hate it, man. What the hell?
I can't tell you how happy you're making Shawn right now, because that's all you want to talk about, like setting into vibration levels 12. That's him right now.
Paper rules, dude. I love it. Like, I still love it.
There you go.
Can I tell you how, to follow up on something, like how like full circle things became? I got into Riot Games 15 years ago. And I remember League running, and I'd never heard of Riot. I'd never heard of League before. So that was my sort of deep end of the pool, being immersed into a MOBA game. And at that point, they were already globally successful. You know, they were a runaway train. And seeing characters on this screen, that made me kind of look over my shoulder to be like, I think those are Battle Chasers characters, or at the very least, heavily influenced by Battle Chasers, you know? And I don't think it was a secret, you know? And it just goes to show the levels of influence that you had, that it makes it into that game, and how full circle coming back. I think Grace was at Airship. Grace is an amazing environment painter.
Grace,
so just to see them kind of cranking away at Airship related stuff, I was like, it's a weird world all coming together all at once, all at the same time, based on this style that you helped influence into this next generation artists. And now they are under your banner. You know what I mean? How does that feel, dude?
Just to take your more full circle, when the Battle Chasers game came out, everyone was like, Red Monaga is just a total ripoff of Misfortune.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is like Garen. Like, what is this shit? And I was like, whoa, check the dates. Like, check the receipts. And then, more full circle, we did a fucking, League of Legends Ruin King game.
That's right.
And
that's
so,
right.
It's
beautiful, by the way. It's so freaking beautiful. I don't know why. Tell me there's an art book forthcoming, because you want to talk about a learning tool. Every environment in that game is so well put together. You must have had a crack shot team involved, man. That thing looks so good.
It was, yeah. And it was a small team too. Like we do
That's even better.
We do big games with like not many people, but we're just pretty hardcore like that. And like the first Battle Chasers game probably had like 6 to 8 people throughout the entire development. And then Ruin King probably had like 20-ish. But it was like small. Grace was one of them, and just, 3 or 4 just amazing environment painters, and just everything was hand painted, old school in Unity, just like no normals, nothing. It was like, weirdly, it kind of is more time consuming to make a game like that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Obviously,
that's right.
Riot approached us and was like, hey, we love Battle Chasers. Like, would you want to make a League of Legends RPG like that? And we're like, these guys pulling my leg. Stop it.
Yeah.
We're like this little studio in Austin. And, at that time, there was only League. That the Forge initiative was just starting, and they didn't really have any side games that we knew of. Right now, they have the awesome fighting game and everything. But at that time, I'm like, they're not going to let us make an RPG. Stop. But they did, and it was a huge break for us. So.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Well done.
Didn't I meet you? Like, am I crazy? Or I feel like I was on a campus tour and I said hi to you in person at Riot. Like,
it was super brief, because the nature
he had the red lights behind him. So it was him.
That's how he remembers.
That's what threw me off. There was no red light, so I couldn't be sure that it was him.
That's pretty much it. But yeah, so you're saying, your trajectory brought you back to comics, or continues to bring you back to comics. And you said it before, it's just you love telling that story and following up on stories that you've set up previously. Can you talk about that briefly? Like, what keeps you coming back?
Yeah. For me, it really is I think like it is a really pure medium. Like, I love that if I wanted to just do my own thing, I could write and draw and color this book and just not have the influence of, a million other people,
Yeah.
publishers,
Producers, the whole bit. Yeah.
producers. It's like, man, because, you work on an animated film, you work on a game, anything, right? There's going to be just dozens or hundreds of voices and concerns from all kinds of places. And it's like, man, if you want to bang out a comic, there's people, just do a webtoon, just fucking put it online and like,
That's right.
draw what you want and start building up a following and like, tell a story. Like I didn't really have a story in mind. Like I said, when I started Battle Chasers, I vaguely knew each character's like long arc, but again, in my mind, it would take 100 issues to get there, and they would just go on all these adventures, and more like like the anime I was watching. There's tons of I mean, like you watch Naruto, it's like okay, every 30 episodes they like move the plot forward, but in between is just awesome battles and character intros.
Yeah,
and that's kind of that's how I thought Battle Chasers was going to be. But now, through working on the game and like trying to I really want to like bring the books and the games together, moving forward to where it's not just some vague like, in some point in the future after the comics this happened. I really want to tell the character stories, whether it's in the game or the comics or both. Because I at some point I just got excited about it, and I'm like, damn, I'm getting kind of old and I got to put these fucking comics out or else it's never going to happen.
right.
And I just care like more about the story and telling the story and getting it wrapped up. And like I said, I would love to draw it. I would love to do the layouts at the very least. There's one critical moment in the series too that's like kind of the reveal of Garrison's like traumatic event of his life, and like I feel like I can't let anyone else draw it. It has to be me. Like because there was a time where we were going to do it in the game, and I was like, fuck, we're going to show it in the game and before the comics. That's weird, because in my mind it was always like I could see like the pages, and we ended up not doing it, but I would like to put those books out. Whether I draw it or not, like I feel like it has to happen. So and look, man, as I get older and like maybe I just chill out and like get out of the game thing and just do my own little comic and fucking like go back to a peaceful existence.
Well,
but
you heard it here first. Joe's going to start drawing comics tomorrow.
It's not going to be monthly. Okay, I'll tell you that.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Honestly, I think with more of this creator movement, I think this monthly schedule isn't as important if you're self-publishing or stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's that critical fan base that I think is already inherently you've built in, but also there's a whole generation of people who are, unaware of what your influence is, what your outreach is, and I think getting them accustomed to the fact that you're back in the business of telling sequential art, that's not going to take that long. So it's just a matter of when you want to pull that trigger. I suspect, I'd bet good money that people would show up for it,
Oh, I have no doubt.
And also now it's just reframing what the concept of success is. It sounds like now you're in a better headspace, or at least in a more even-keeled headspace of like, I just want to finish the story. Whereas before, somebody would give you the numbers of like, oh, it doesn't sell 500,000 copies, 1 million copies or whatever. And you're like, oh, maybe it's not successful. But right now your filter for success is not about the inherent, I mean, that would be nice, obviously. But now it's about just like, hey, the stories have been in me for X amount of decades. I still have something to say about it. You just said it right now. I feel like I need to tell that Garen story. I can't let that go. That says a lot, man.
So you just said Garen. Damn it! It happened again.
I quit. It's critical to you. You wanted to tell that story, and that speaks a lot about like you're still invested in telling that story. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. And like I think if I ever did step back into comics, I feel like I have some like homework to do about like I don't know how I feel about the current state of the industry and like,
Sure.
you know, doing a print book that goes to comic stores and like versus like, do you just put it on Webtoon? Is it better to have millions of eyes on it and getting ad money versus you sell 50,000 copies and like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know how I would do it or what I know there's a ton of other avenues besides Webtoons or whatever. I'm just keep using that as an example. My daughter was like so obsessed with it. And when I'd be like, I never heard of this shit. Oh my God. 80 million,
Yeah.
you know,
exactly.
Oh, it's
exactly.
surprising.
readers.
It's surprising.
I'm like, Jesus. Right. But like that kind of stuff, you know, unfortunately has become pretty important to, you know, if you're looking for publishing money or like, you know, VCs, whatever, if you want to make a game, it's like people look at that. It's more important to have eyes on it than revenue from comics, right? So like for me, it's like, how would I actually do this book? Like what options are available now? Probably both, right? Because I want the physical book. I want to smell the paper and I want to see the ink. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what's out there. I haven't really been following all the latest, you know, digital comic trends or whatever. But I do feel like I wish there was a way to get it into millions of hands again versus, you know, like 10,000 people. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm sure there's way smarter people than me that are already trying to figure this
there's
out. But
hybrid solutions and stuff like that you can adopt. Like you gotta do a lot of homework and study what.
I think
would be,
right now it's kind of the Wild West where everyone's figuring out new ways to do this.
Yeah.
It's been good. I did want to ask you we're about to finish the podcast portion and get into the Patreon. So all of you listening, if you want to hear the answers to where we're going with that stuff, subscribe to the Patreon. But is that a Naruto tattoo on your hand there, Joe?
It is. Yeah.
Nice.
And the little
How long ago did you get
that? On my hand, it's probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I think.
Nice.
I don't know.
All right.
It was
Go ahead.
Oh, it was like an apprentice or something. It's pretty scarred and raised. I don't know if you can notice it on there. But,
why did you go to an apprentice?
It was so simple. I was just like, dude, I trust you.
All right, listen, I want to give you a heads up. You know, I don't know if you watch the show. If you don't watch the show,
apology.
If you don't watch the show, even better off for you. But now that it's here, right? It's the oncoming truck that we can't avoid. Mateo's going to sign off, and it's the most annoying freaking thing, right?
Don't hang up. Don't hit any button.
Please don't hang up. Just bear through it.
Before we do,
Maddie.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, no, mute Maddie, right? Like he's going to say about a sign off right now that it's the soul piercingly annoying. And as soon as he does, we have another 30 minutes of Patreon. But oh my gosh, man, I'm so sorry.
Before
for
I do
what's
my
about to
really
happen.
annoying thing, Joe, if there's anything you in particular you want to plug.
Yeah, good call.
Man, I'm just happy to be here. I've been enjoying talking to you guys. I'm not really plugging anything right now, but
man.
obviously, stay tuned for more cool games from Airship Syndicate, and
Hell yeah.
like hopefully some more Battle Chasers comics coming, maybe early to mid next year. So,
awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome, dude.
Awesome.
All right, Mateo.
Thank you, man.
It's time.
Thank you, Joe.
It's
Really
time.
appreciate it.
of course.
Joe,
Thank
sorry
you.
in advance for what I'm gonna do.
Oh, fuck, it's still going, man.
Damn.
Be done already. Enough.
Inkpulp Podcast.